Alright. Hello, friends. I hope the audio's nice for today's video. I'm doing kind of a quiet video because it's nighttime. I hope you enjoy the vibes here. My last video, I said I would embrace short-form content. Not short-form content, but like making shorter videos where I just give my concise little opinion. And I've realized now that I usually try to explain myself as much as possible in my videos, which is why they end up being longer. And I do this because I don't want people to misinterpret the things that I'm saying. And but I also feel like people are going to misinterpret what I'm saying no matter what, so perhaps I should just not care about that. Anyways, I'm just going to say what I feel today, which is probably a little bit controversial, and, we'll see if this resonates with anyone, but I apologize if my opinions deeply disturb you. Don't worry, I'm actually nice, so, yeah. Anyways, today's video is about gatekeeping, kind of. A little bit. Basically, I think that there's a lot of bad stuff coming out these days, mainstream stuff, and I'm mostly talking about movies and television. I think that our standards are very low, and it's growing a little bit concerning to me, because when I say that we need to have higher standards for art, I tend to come off as a little bit elitist, and, at this point, I feel like this is getting to... I've already sort of made a video about this and why I think that's kind of anti-intellectual, but I want to make my case here. I think that there is a case for gatekeeping in the sense that we need to discern between the art that is genuine and good and interesting and the art that is corporate slop for the masses. I think this is important, and I think that when those lines get blurred, we start to sacrifice. We start to just get more and more terrible stuff, which is what's happening. I also want to make it clear that when I'm saying we need higher standards for art, I don't mean that in some weird conservative way where we need to, like, go back to, Da Vinci or whatever. I mean that specifically in a way where we need to be rejecting corporate mass media soulless stuff, and I don't think people are doing that. Something that I'll bring up as an example is the recent How to Train Your Dragon remake. I did not watch this film. I will admit that right now. I don't see why I need to, seeing as it is just a remake of the animated classic. And listen, I'm not even that big of a fan of the classic, How to Train Your Dragon animated movie, but I still, I like it. It's a great film. It has a great soundtrack. What I'm getting at here is that this movie released, and it actually did not receive backlash. Really not much at all. Not that I was aware of. Please let me know if I'm wrong about this. But for the most part, even on very sort of like more niche critical websites like Letterboxd, which is something I use, as far as I can tell, and I'll put up the rating it has right now, but I think it's around a 3.9 or a 4.0. And I think that's truly absurd. Do we need a remake of How to Train Your Dragon? No, we don't. We don't need a live-action remake of that film. And the only reason it was made is so that DreamWorks or, whoever the fuck made this movie can just make more money. And I don't think we should be supporting that. I think that that's very stupid. So that's one of my main examples. I can bring up a lot, and I will bring up another one that will get me in some hot water, but I'll do that in a minute. The other thing is that people get really up in arms when I say the words gatekeeping, because people very much associate this as a bad thing. we just need to be positive about art and all this sort of stuff, you know, is what people might say. And and I agree on some level. You know, obviously there's a certain extent of gatekeeping that is very bad and harmful and exclusionary, you know, and it's been this way for a while, right? But there's a middle ground. There's a reason that gatekeeping exists, and it's to protect art from becoming, you know, just completely enraptured by this meaningless capitalist, you know, shit, right? And obviously there's a level of that is impossible to avoid, of course. But I just see more and more and more of this, and lower and lower and lower standards for the content that we're consuming. And what I think people don't understand is that when you say that AI art is not art, you are doing a form of gatekeeping. You are saying this form of art cannot be considered art. And obviously, that is good. That is a good thing. It is good to put that wall and say, no, we're not just going to be tolerant of AI stuff. We need to protect the sanctity of art on some level. And that means, you know, rejecting AI art. And I think that we need to be doing the very same thing with corporate mass media bullshit, you know. Other examples like the Super Mario movies, the Minecraft movie. Okay, this is garbage. And if you enjoyed these films, like, okay, to each their own. That's all right. I'm sure that they were made to be entertaining because that's how they were made, right? But that doesn't mean that we should be supporting it, monetarily especially, you know. But we should be outspoken about why we don't want this. We want more genuine, great stuff. One thing, this is my sort of hot take, and maybe I'll cut this out of the video if I get too worried. But I think that Project Hail Mary falls into this bucket, and I'll explain why a little bit. And listen, it's okay if you like this film. It's okay. I'm not mad at you. But this movie has ridiculously high scores. It's hard to find anything negative about it. And I walked out of that movie feeling completely just disappointed. For one, the script is just horrendously bad. It's like cringe millennial humor. And I think we need to have higher standards for our film scripts because it's truly terrible. So yeah, there's that. But on a deeper level, the movie is just trying. It's just trying so hard to just be this like super fun, fast-paced adventure, and so in the end, it feels like it's left saying nothing, and being nothing, you know. Like, you're dealing with these big topics like the end of the world, you know, and you know, I think it's easy to make a parallel between our climate crisis and the crisis that the world faces in Project Hail Mary. And yet there is no blame put on corporations, the governments of the world, anything like that. It's all just, you know, actually in the Project Hail Mary movie, all the governments band together to save everyone, which is just, it feels like idealized kind of liberal bullshit to me. Also, the movie was made by Amazon, and so that kind of tracks. So I think that's a soulless film. I also thought the finale was very anticlimactic. It just didn't feel like any of the actions of the characters really had any consequences. Anyways, feel free to disagree with me about that. I hope my general point still comes across here. To be a little more positive, because I know I've been a little bit negative, I just want to highlight some stuff that I actually do enjoy. I've been watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia recently, and it's a really, really great show, and genuinely a very leftist show. I think that the characters are just amazingly written and complex, but also their actions and behaviors and circumstances are very much formed around the political and social climate that they live in. And I don't think I'm just reading into this too far. Like, I think the show actually does like a good job of showing this off. Like in the episode where they try to get into the pool and they're talking about how they're low class, and they pretend to be higher class, but they just still are treated as lower class. I think that was very interesting, and I like the when the Dennis and Dee go on welfare. There's a lot of great stuff. So the show doesn't shy away from making those political statements, and it just really is great satire of America. It's really good. So I like that show, and I know it's kind of old. I'll try to think of a newer thing. I guess I really like the new Dune movies. I think I've talked about this on the channel before. I think that those are like such an anomaly to me. I don't know how those have been made. But they're really awesome films, and obviously those are just they're from a book, right? And they have all these big actors attached to them, and maybe people who are watching those movies aren't really reading into it very much. But I think that Dune actually has a lot of very interesting anti-authoritarian politics in it that I think is very cool. It has a lot of very interesting philosophy too. Yeah, I really like the new Dune movies, and I think that that's a really great thing coming out. I really liked Succession. I think Succession is maybe the best show ever made outside of Breaking Bad. Everyone should go see Succession right now. It's another fantastic satire of politics in general, but it's also just a gorgeous, extremely well written show. Sorry, I'm not going to get too far into this because I could talk about that show and why it's so good for literally hours, and I want to keep this video relatively short. So I'll end it there. I said some positive things that I enjoy and like, so I hope you don't come out of this video thinking I'm just sort of a negative Nancy. Yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you engage with this in good faith, as always, and I will see you in the next video.